Hello guys, how is it going? Today I'm going to record a video showing you guys pros and cons of the Honda Africa Twin CRF 1100. I feel pretty much comfortable of doing this analysis, mainly because I've had bikes for almost 30 years. I've ridden the Honda Africa Twin for 35,000 kilometers, did a lot of repairs as you can see from my channel. So I feel pretty much confident to present to you guys my opinion on this bike. Before I begin, it's important to mention the lenses through which I'm doing this analysis. As you probably know, our perspectives, our views on things impact on the way we see and analyze phenomena. So the first thing, I always look for a very robust bike that lasts long mileage, a bike that you can keep for many years without needing to replace hard components, and a bike that provides you comfort, speed, power, and yet it feels light for off. Those are the main things I look on the bike. It's important to mention that I'm not fanboy of Honda, Yamaha, BMW or any other brand. I've had a lot of BMWs, I've had Yamahas and other Hondas, so I always look for the bike that meets my needs. I'm also not a fanboy of one particular type of manufacturer like Japanese, German. So having said that, let's begin with the pros. So guys, in order to make things easier, I have prepared a list here. So I'm sorry if you get me reading some of points. It's just for me not to forget those. The first positive thing of the bike is that the Africa Twin is very good at handling. The bike has a perfect center of gravity. Most of the weight is placed under the tank. The center of gravity is probably a position here. So it makes things a lot easier for you to ride off-road. And on-road, it's also very easy to handle. As a dual-purpose bike, this is one of the best bikes I've had in terms of handling off-road. The bike has a very comfortable position, and also the suspension works greatly, so it handles very easily. You feel that it's easier to ride this bike comparing to others, especially the one I've had, the F850. The second point is that this bike has a very strong and powerful engine. So as you probably know, the bike is 1100 cc. It does have enough power for you to handle any sort of terrains, uphill, off-road, on-road. If you want to go over 160 kilometers per hour, if you want to go a lot of strength uphill, sandy terrains, muddy terrains, you will get a lot of power from this engine. Comparing to the F850 is not a lot different, is that the power is more evenly distributed on the power curve. The third point, the bike is powerful and it is very comfortable. You know, the power is delivered in a uniform way through the power curve. So if you are riding, you feel like, comparing to other bikes like the BMW 1200. The 1200 is well known for its evenly distributed power. Very comfortable if you are like on a cruise position. This bike will do this as well. Comparing to other ones, the ones with smaller engines that are more aggressive in the first gears, but then you feel that, you know, you need to rev up a lot when you are above 120. It doesn't shake too much, it doesn't vibrate, even though it vibrates more than the 1200. It's very good at handling the vibration. So now we go to the fourth point. This bike, it's very economical in terms of fuel consumption. It's the best big engine bikes that you've probably seen in the market. I usually do like 22 kilometers per liter. 22 kilometers per liter is quite a lot, especially considering that fuel in my country is mixed up with ethanol. Probably in Europe or in countries with gasoline in a more pure state, you probably do 25 kilometers per liter, riding at an average of 120 kilometers per hour. So you do get a lot of autonomy. I can easily do more than 380, 400 kilometers with this tank, which is quite a lot considering that you only have 18.5 liters. Fifth point, the seat position in relation to the handlebar. So this bike has a very comfortable seating position. It's very comfortable, especially if you are standing up. In a position standing up, you can see everything. You are positioned close, with your legs close to the tank, and this makes easier for you to handle the bike off-road. Quite like it. I think it's better than the other one I had, the F850. And also it does have like this space here on the tank that holds your legs just here, not allowing you to go too much towards the front of the bike. 6th point is full suspension adjustment. On this bike, even though you don't have electronic suspension, I personally don't like electronic suspension adjustment. I prefer the manual one because I'm sure that it will last longer. The bike has full suspension adjustment. So you have 2 adjustments here, the rebound, but you have one below here, the return. So you adjust here and you adjust on the top easily the front suspension. Not a lot of bikes provide you adjustment in the front suspension. So this suspension is quite hard if you want to adjust it like that. For you, like for bumpy terrains, it will handle beautifully. Also, you have full adjustment on the rear suspension here, and you have like adjustment here as well, a screw that you turn to make it stronger, and you also have on the other side. So the 7th point is that this bike doesn't consume a lot of oil from the engine. I've had like recently the BMW F850. The BMW F850 takes like 1 liter of oil every 10,000 kilometers. This bike won't take more than 200 milliliters of oil every 10,000. So it's you don't need to be carrying bottles of oil if you are doing a long journey. I usually do like 10,000 kilometer journey. Brazil is a very long country, Latin America as well. So when you get your bike, you just go and you ride 10,000 kilometers easily. So you don't need to be worrying about carrying bottles of oil or checking the oil all the time. So point number 8, this bike handles beautifully the engine with bad quality petrol. This is very important if you are going to cross borders and go to countries where the petrol is mixed up with ethanol or other types of mixtures. This bike handles beautifully, especially on the altitude. The fuel injection system adapts itself easily comparing to other bikes, especially when you go in high altitudes like 4,000 meters above the bike. You have like less oxygen, so you need to adjust the fuel injection. This bike has a system which adjusts beautifully. I've never had problems in altitude, lower altitudes, in cold weather, hot weather, and with different kinds of petrol, bad quality petrol mixed up with water. The bike handles. If you think of adventure bike riding, you have to consider that you may go to places where the petrol is not as good as in your country. Point number 9, this bike is very tough in handling hard terrains. If you drop it on the ground, if you go on very hot weather during a long journey like 42 degrees Celsius, bike handles a lot of beating up. Suspension is strong, the wheel, the bolts, everything is placed in such a way that it will handle tough terrains, water, if you go river crossing. This bike, you can go anywhere. Number 10, even though the bike weighs like 220 kilograms and is considered a heavy bike, it doesn't feel in such way. It feels that you are riding like a 180 kilogram bike. You can easily filter through the traffic with this bike. On off-road terrains, you don't feel as heavy as the specification says. So the weight, as I mentioned before, is placed here on the bike. So you don't feel that you are over an elephant. So number 11, this is for you guys who worry about maintenance. If you do long mileage, this is an important point as well. The parts of this bike are commonly used on other Honda and Yamaha bikes. If you are like in the wilderness or in a country where you won't find like big trails, you can get parts from other bikes that will serve temporarily on this bike. The bolts are pretty much standardized throughout Honda lines. So if you break any bolt or something, you will find a mechanic that will have these bolts. So this will come to number 12. This bike doesn't require a lot of tools for you to repair and to do the maintenance. Everything is pretty much standardized throughout Honda line. So you buy like a set of tools, a simple one, and you'll be able to do almost everything on this bike. Another positive point of this bike is that it's made by Honda. And Honda is a huge bike manufacturer across the world, especially here in Latin America. You have like dealers all over the place. You can easily find parts if you are different countries across the borders. So this is something for you to consider, especially if you are an adventure rider, if you're going to other countries. Honda, we will always have a dealer and you will always find parts. So number 14, this is one of the most important points of this bike, positive points comparing to BMW. I'm sorry for you to mention BMW all the time, but I've had a lot of BMWs in the past few decades, so I pretty much know, the problems and the advantages of BMW. This bike doesn't have planned obsolescence or any sort of bugs that they place on the system for you to make you go to the dealer, and reset the system. You can do the service yourself. There is no locks on the dashboard if you don't go to the service following the periods prescribed on the manual. Everything, I have a video on the channel showing you guys how to erase error codes. Quite easy, quite straightforward. So BMW on the opposite side, if you don't go to the dealer every 10,000 kilometers on the service time, they will place like a message on your dashboard, annoying message, making you go or buy, something for you to plug into the ECM. Honda, at least up until now, doesn't have like planned obsolescence. Number 15, the bike is made for DIY riders, the ones that want to do the maintenance themselves, not take to the dealers. The riders who want to sort out any problem, you will be able to do with a few. Even though sometimes it's difficult to repair things on this bike, everything is manageable. This bike has a very good cruise control comparing to BMW. You can set the speed on the speed that you are riding at one particular time, or you can set, leave on the dashboard, like I want to start on 120 kilometers per hour. You have like these two options. The previous bike I had, the F850, I was able only to set, the speed on one particular. So now talking about the mechanical things on the bike, we go to number 17. The engineering project of this bike is very, very well designed. One thing that you have, like the airbox, is placed above, just under the tank here. So this ensures you that you can go on high river crossings, because the water, you can go up to this height. Also, your exhaust pipe is very high as well. So this bike will handle river crossings up to here, let's say, which is quite good. Also, I've noticed that the design of the airbox, which is on this side here under the fairing, is very well placed to minimize dust breathing. I've had the F850, the breathing part is just here. What usually happened on the bike when you got a lot of dust, it would breathe a lot of dust. This bike on the opposite side has breathing hole placed here on such a way that you won't get a lot of dust. So this is quite important for you if you want to have a bike for a long time and if you ride in dusty environments. Another important and positive point of Honda Africa Twin is that it's relatively simple comparing to other modern bikes. I noticed that Honda makes technology that are essential but avoids, like things that are not important that may cause a damage if it gets wet or with like a long time. The bike kept it simple at its best and electronics on what is essential. So overall, what I find is that this bike is very well built, very robust, and it's a project that will last, a bike that will last long years ahead. If you buy an Africa Twin and you want to keep it for 10, 15, 20 years, you can do it. The engine is robust and the parts as well. So if that is your major aim, the Africa Twin is probably the best adventure bike on the market. But if you want like technology, if you want like seats that warm up, if you want like electronic suspension and things that modernity allow you but will probably break in the middle of the road, this is not the bike for you. It's more simple, it's more straightforward, and it's made for you to beat it up. So now let's go to the negative points of the bike. Because the first thing that is important to mention is that Honda Africa Twin, it's not a bike for people who are not capable of handling more complex and procedure. The reason is that if you want to do like basic maintenance on this bike, everything is difficult, everything is hard to reach. You don't have enough room to fit your hand. You know, you need to have like some skills in order to do basic maintenance. For example, if you want to change your air filter, you have to remove all the fairings of the bike. Also, if you want to change your coolant from the radiator, and if you want to clean up the reserve tank, which is just there, you have to remove the wheel and the rear shock of the bike in order to access it. Everything on the bike, everything is complex. You don't have room. If you want to replace the spark plugs, you have to remove the tank, remove the radiator, remove the air box, everything in order to replace the spark plug. This is not an easy bike for you to do basic maintenance. So if you want to do maintenance yourself and you don't have the skills or don't have the patience to study on how to do it, don't get the Africa Twin. The Africa Twin has a more complex mechanical design. A lot of people complain, but you know, I've already explained. What happens is that Honda wanted to keep the weight concentrated on these spots of the bike. And in order to do that, it had to minimize space. Everything is compact, everything is enmeshed within little spaces, so you have to remove everything in order to do maintenance. For example, if you want to do valve clearance checks, you have to dismantle the whole bike. You have to remove the tank, the airbox, the throttle body, the radiator. So this is not a simple bike. So another important thing to mention is that the seat of this bike is horrible. You don't have a lot of foam here. See? You don't have a lot of foam here as well. So you won't sit on this bike for more than 3 hours without aching your bottom. So in order to minimize this, I had to buy this Airhawk seat, which is place some air here, and it resolves the issue. Yeah? So another problem on this bike is the slow dashboard onboard computer. I'm gonna show you. It takes a long time to load here. You see? So if you are off-road and you need to reset or turn on, turn off the bike, it takes almost 30 seconds, you know, for you to be able to press the OK button and have your speedometer here. Even though you have this one, turns on immediately, you know, the main dashboard computer takes a long time to turn on. Another problem on this bike is that it doesn't have like a button here or in the middle for you to turn off the ABS and the traction control. You have to go onto the onboard system, select the type of riding you are going to do, and then go onto the specific option to switch on and off the ABS and the traction control. And if you turn off the bike, you have to do it all over again. So this is such a pain when you are off-road and you want to, you know, turn on and turn off. Every time you turn off the bike, you have to redo it. And as I mentioned on the previous point, it takes like 30 seconds for the dashboard to be completely on for you to do the setup. So another point that is important to point out as a negative side is that the position of the indicator and the horn is not standardized. It's not like Honda, Yamaha standard. This takes a long time for you to get used to, because usually it's here, yeah, on most bikes. So it's kind of annoying, you know, if you have another bike and you ride both, you will notice that it will take a little while for you to get used. Especially the horn is placed in a horrible position. So another negative point on the bike is the position of the radiator. As you can see, the radiator fan is placed just here. When you are sitting on the bike, it throws all the air onto your leg on both sides. What they could have done, they could have placed something going down or up, anywhere, you know, because if you are like on temperatures above 35 degrees, if you are like with shorts or jeans, trousers, it's gonna get a lot hot. Another negative point on this bike, as you can see here, the top box is placed too far away from the center of gravity. As you can see, a lot of bikes have the top box somewhere around here above the wheel, and this is further away from the wheel. What happens is that if you get like wind and go above 140, 150 kilometers, the bike starts wobbling. So you shouldn't leave any weight on your top box, only light things like clothes. They should have placed somewhere right here, so you would have been closer to the center of gravity. So another negative point of this bike, I don't know if it happens all over the world. This bike is manufactured here in Brazil. Here, in order to adapt the bike to the petrol of Brazil, the bike has a power gap between 2000 and 4000 rpm. It's very strong, and when you reach 2000 it does like flatten a little bit. It's not like exponential, but I'm sure that you can sort this out by doing some remapping on the fuel injection. But this is quite annoying sometimes. You feel that the bike loses force, but above 4000 rpm the bike quite uniform, below as well. So one thing that, it depends on your perspective. For me, it doesn't annoy me much, but a lot of people complain that the bike, it's not tubeless, tire is not tubeless. So if you get a puncture, it will take a little longer for you to repair it, and it's a little bit more. As an advantage side, if you get like a dent on your wheel, you can carry on riding. Whereas if you have like tubeless wheel, you will need to go somewhere to sort this out or buy a mini tube. So last but not least, this bike has another problem here, the buffeting, but you can sort this out placing. What happens is that the wind coming from here, from the front, goes onto your visor, onto the helmet. So you do feel a little bit, especially if you have like open-faced helmets, when you lift it up, you feel the buffeting, the wind going on the opening part. You can sort this out with like a deflector. So guys, to sum up, weighing positive with negative points on the bike, I think, my personal opinion, considering my perspective, is the best adventure bike on the market. It has like a large engine, it's comfortable, it's tough, doesn't consume a lot of fuel, and also for me, it's okay to do the maintenance myself. So considering everything, this is the best bike to buy. For you guys, it may not be the case because you may weigh different points than me, but I try to present the pros and cons for you to decide. But overall, it's an excellent bike. You'll be able to do everything you want. If you want to ride in traffic, if you want to ride on motorways, if you want to do like only exclusive off-road riding, or if you want to do long distance, short distance, this bike handle everything pretty much easily. You won't be in trouble with it. So I hope I managed to help you guys. Any questions, or if I forgot something, please leave on the comments below. I'll be more than pleased to answer you guys, and perhaps you should complement some of the things I forgot if you are an Africa Twin owner. So I wish you all the best, yeah?